Masechet Kiddushin, Daf Lamed Dalid. The Mishnah said that Kol Misvot Aseh Shehazeman Gerama, any positive commandment that is caused by time, is time bound, women are exempt. So we're going to elaborate on that part of the Mishnah. Tenora Banan, Ezohi Misvat Aseh Shehazeman Gerama. What does that mean? Positive commandments that are time bound. What are some examples? Sukkah, Velulab, Shofar, Vesisit, Utfilin. Sukkah is only applicable on the holiday of Sukkot. Lulav also is only on Sukkot. Shofar is only on Rosh Hashanah. Sisit is only applicable during the day. Tefillin does not apply on Shabbat and Yom Tov. So all these are time bound and they are mitzvot aseh, and therefore women are exempt from these mitzvot. ואיזוהי מצוות עשה שלא הזמן גרמה, מזוזה מעכה אבדה ושילוח הקן. What are some examples of positive commandments that are not dependent on time? Mezuzah, you have to have a mezuzah on your house all the time. Makeh, a fence around your roof, is required always. Avedav, if you find something that someone lost, you have to return it to its owner. I mean, you do it, it's not, you can't do it any time because you can't always just find something unless you're going around looking for things. But whenever you find something, you have to return it to your owners. Doesn't matter day or night or any specific days. And if you come upon a nest of a bird and you want the eggs and you shoo away the mother bird, this also is applicable all the time. Again, it's only when you find such a thing, but it's not any time of the day or night or any time of the year that you find such a nest. The mitzvah is applicable, and therefore women are obligated in these positive commandments. Now we ask, uchlalahu, the Mishnah said in language of kol mitzvot, right? This is the general rule, applies to all positive commandments that are time bound. Hold on, but there's a bunch of exceptions, so how can you say it's a general rule? Hare masa simcha hakel the misvat aseh shazaman gerama v'nashim hayavot. Eating masa on Pesach on the first night is equally applicable to men and women. Women were also saved and involved in that, in the miracle of Yitziat Mitzrayim. In fact, they were essential characters in saving Moshe and so on. And so women have to eat matzah as well. The mitzvah of enjoying a festival, Samachta bechagecha. Women are also obligated, Hakel, once every 7 years, to come together to listen to the Torah being read, is required by men, women, children. Everyone needs to be there, even though these are all time bound and women are obligated. So it's actually not a general rule. So that's question number one. Vetu hare tamud Torah periya v'ribya piryon ben delav mitzvat aseh shazman geramahu v'nashim peturot. We also have exceptions the other way around. That the following are positive commandments that are not dependent on time, and yet women are exempt from them. Talmud Torah applies, mitzvat aseh applies all the time. Women are not obligated. Pirya v'ribya, mitzvat aseh, and women are not obligated. That's a curious one, right? So really, the commandment is to men to have children, even though they're going to need women to do that. But the primary obligation is upon the man to make sure to figure out a way to do that. Pidyon haben, even though we do Pidyon haben, after 30 days, but really you could do Pidyon haben anytime if you didn't do it then, right? So whenever you do it, that is applicable, and so that's a misvat aseh, and it's not time bound, and yet women are exempt. So we have exceptions both ways. In fact, there's maybe just about as many exceptions as there are examples of the application of the rule. So this rule doesn't look comprehensive. So why are you saying that it's a general rule? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, en limedim min hakelalot afilu b'makom she'en bochutz. Rabbi Yochanan says, yes, there are exceptions to the rules, right? Rules are made to be broken. And we cannot learn from generalities, even if you have a generality that says chutz. If it gives exceptions, that makes it more likely that it's giving you all the examples, right? Every, A is B, except for or whatever. So then if you give the exceptions, that sounds like really these are the only exceptions. But even that's not true. Even if it would, over here the Mishnah doesn't mention exceptions. Even if it would mention a couple of exceptions to the rule, it doesn't even necessarily mean it's mentioning all the exceptions. So this is more like a rule of thumb. It's not an absolute rule, but rather we're taking a few commandments and noticing that what do they have in common? A few commandments that women are exempt from, well, they have in common that they are positive commandments that are time bound. Does that mean that there are positive commandments that are time bound that women have to do? Yes, there are also those. There are also those. But here's a bunch of them that women are exempt from, and the other way around also. So this is just a kind of general rule, but there are many exceptions to it. This leads to the theory that what comes first, the rule or the particular details? And so some people think that actually each mitzvah had its own tradition and its own history, that women are exempt from these and are commanded in those. And then later on, the Mishnah comes and says, hey, here's a generality, right? There's something similar to many of the laws that women are commanded and many of the positive laws that women are exempt, and so gives a general rule so that you can fit in a lot of the examples, even most of the examples, even though there are many exceptions, and maybe that's because the details of each law came first, and the generalization actually could be secondary. Okay, di tanan. And now we're just going to prove that when you have a rule, it doesn't mean that there are no exceptions. Even if you say chutz, there may be more exceptions that are mentioned in the part of chutz. Ditnan, bakom arvin umishtatefin chutz min hamayim umelach. You're allowed to do an eruv chaserot or eruv techumin, where you have to take a meal and to join courtyards, or if you want to extend your boundary so that you can walk in one direction more than 2,000 amot. So you have to use some kind of food. You can use all types of food to do that, except for water and salt. Those are not nourishing foods. You can't use them. So that's a general rule. So here's, I have a general rule, and I have an exception. So if I just had that, I would think that all foods are allowed, except for these two. Since I mentioned an exception, if there were other exceptions, it would have mentioned those other exceptions. So is this an absolute rule? It's not, in fact. Tu vetu leka, that's it. These are the only exceptions. Vaika kemehinu pitriot. Oh, what about truffles and mushrooms? Those also cannot be used for an eruv because they are not nourishing. And so there are exceptions here. There are exceptions to this rule. Ela en lemadim min hakelot afilu makom shenemar bo chutz. So this is a good example that you do not learn from general rules that are mentioned in the Mishnah. Even if it says chutz, like in this example, and mentions two exceptions, there actually are more exceptions. And so rules are made to be broken. The rules are just generalities to help categorize most things, but it doesn't mean it's an absolute, that just because it fits into this category, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has that law. Every item has to be analyzed on its own, right? And here, right, you're looking at the mayim and melach. Those are examples of things that don't provide nourishment. So it's true for other things that don't provide nourishment. Good. And so now we're going to go through a whole bunch of examples and see that each one has its own derivation and history, and we'll see how we learn the generality and the particulars. What is the source for this rule that positive time-bound commandments women are exempt from? Gamar mitifilin. So we're using a binyan av. That's the rule that says if the Torah mentions something in one place, then you can generalize it to all other places, unless there's some reason why you couldn't generalize it. So we learn it from tefillin. Ma tefillin nashim peturot, af kol misvot aseh shazman gerama nashim peturot. Just like women are exempt from wearing tefillin, so, and that's a paradigm for all positive time-bound commandments that women also are exempt. And how do you know tefillin, the women are exempt? Torah doesn't say that explicitly. Utfillin gamar la mitamud Torah, ma tamud Torah nashim peturot. Af tefillin nashim peturot. We're going to learn that from learning of Torah. Just like regarding learning Torah, women are exempt, so to tefillin, women are exempt. Regarding learning Torah, that we derived on a previous daf that says, v'limadetem otam et benechem v'lo et benotechem, since a father has to teach his son, but not his daughter. And then we derive from that also that a daughter, when she grows up herself, is exempt from learning Torah and exempt from teaching her own son Torah. Torah. So through all those derivations, we learn that women are exempt from learning Torah. And since it mentions tefillin and learning Torah back to back in Parashat Shema, and we can see that right here in Parashat Shema, it says tefillin shatam leot ayadecha, and that it comes right after vishinantam lebanecha. So right there you see that the whatever is true for studying Torah, women are exempt. So true. So too. And that's not time bound. So that can't be a paradigm for all other time bound laws. But since it's back to back with tefillin, so that's the source that tefillin women are exempt from, and that is a time bound law because we do not wear tefillin on Shabbat and holidays. So that becomes a binyan av for all other time-bound positive commandments. Good. So now we ask, Venakish tefillin the mezuzah. Hold on. Instead of comparing tefillin to what comes right before Torah, why not compare tefillin to what comes right after, which is mezuzah? And women are obligated in mezuzah because that is not time-bound. And then you can learn from there that tefillin, women have to do tefillin and other time-bound mitzvot. So why not learn it that way? The answer is tefillin Talmud Torah itkish ben beparasha rishona ben beparasha sheniya. Tefillin mezuzah parasha sheniya la itkish. It's because tefillin and Torah are back to back both in this paragraph and in the second paragraph of Shema, as we see over here. It says, that's Talmud Torah, and Tefillin is here right before it. The order in the second paragraph is a little bit different, but here you have Tefillin and Talmud Torah are back to back. Tefillin is not back to back with mezuzah, right? That's a pasuk later. So since in the first and second paragraphs of Kiryat Shema you have Tefillin and Torah together, that's a closer connection. So we should learn that just like women are exempt from Torah, so too they are exempt from Tefillin, and we should not learn the connection to mezuzah because the connection is looser here because it's 2 pisukim away. So that's how we learn the rule. All right, good. Now, question. Venakish mezuzah le Talmud Torah. Since mezuzah and Talmud Torah are back to back in that second paragraph of Shema, why not connect them together and say just like Talmud Torah, women are exempt, maybe women should be exempt from mezuzah as well? But we respond, right after mezuzah, it says, so that you will have long life. So do men require long life, but women don't want to have long life? So we're connecting the mitzvah mezuzah to the promise, to the blessing of long life, and therefore everybody wants long life, men and women, and that's why you would not think that women should be exempt from mezuzah. This is an interesting Gemara, considering that Rambam says the purpose of mezuzah is for spiritual benefit, to remind one of Yichud Hashem and the obligation to mitzvot every time you walk in and out, and mitzvah and mezuzah, Rambam emphasizes, is not for physical benefit. It's not for health or protection, because then you're using something that is a Torah, mitzvah, that's supposed to be for spiritual benefit, instead of using it for material benefit. So how would Rambam explain this Gemara? Is a good question. Maybe he would say that through the spiritual benefit of the mezuzah and reminding oneself of Yichud Hashem and the importance of mitzvot, then your life will be, in fact, better and so on. But it's through the commandments and Yichud Hashem. In any case, the mezuzah is essential, and therefore is essential for men and women, so therefore we're not going to make that connection. Okay, now a further challenge. Vare sukkah, the misvat aseh shazeman gerama, dichtib, basukot teshvu shibat yamim. Now we know that sukkah is a positive commandment that is time dependent because you only have to sit in the sukkah for 7 days. Now, how do we know that women are exempt? Ta'amad katab rachamana ha'ezrach lo osiyat hanashim halavachi nashim hayavot. We know there is a midrash halacha that says, since the pasuk says ha'ezrach, a resident, a citizen, has to sit in the sukkah, and we learn that excludes women, only male residents and not female residents, and that's the derivation from which we know that women are exempt. That means if not for this extra word, we would have thought that women are obligated. So you see that this goes against the general rule that misvot aser shazman gerama, women are exempt. In other words, I wouldn't need this derivation if I already have the general binyan av from tefillin that women are exempt in all such misvot. So then, why do I need this particular derivation of ha'ezrach? Marabaye isterich sakad atech amina hoil v'tichti basukot teshebu ke'ain taduru madira ish v'ishto afsuka ish v'ishto. Abba explains, even though I have a general rule that women are exempt from all such commandments, I still need this derivation, because I might have thought when the pasuk says dwell in Sukkot, that means I should dwell in a sukkah the same way I dwell in my house. And just like in a house, people live, husband and wife together, I might have thought in the sukkah, in order to properly dwell in the sukkah the same way we live in a house, so that would be, we would require the husbands and wives to be together in the sukkah. And so, since I might have thought that, and therefore I might have thought that sukkah is an exception to the rule of the binyan av from tefillin, that's why the Torah has to go have its way to say ha'ezrach. Even though all the husband is going to be sleeping in the sukkah by himself, the woman can be in this. She can sit in the sukkah. She can sleep in the sukkah, but she doesn't have to. Even though he's going to be by himself, nevertheless, the woman is exempt. So that's why I need the special derivation here. Or another reason why I need it. Rava amar isterich salkada techamina nelef hamisha asar mehaga masot malala nashim chayavot afkan nashim chayavot sericha. Or Rava explains, I might have thought I would make a gezerah shava. This gezerah shava is used for other things. That it says the 15th of the month regarding Sukkot and the 15th of the month regarding Pesach. And so there are a lot of eating masah, I would have compared to sleeping in the sukkah. And just like on masot, women have to do the basic mitzvot of Pesach, like eating masah, so too I would have thought that we learned from the gezerah shava that women have to sit in a sukkah. That's why I need the other derivation of ha'ezrach to teach me that it's not so. So that's why I need the special derivation for sukkah for one of those two reasons. Next question, v'harei re'iyah, the mitzvah of going on pilgrimage 3 times a year on the holiday to go to Yerushalayim. This is a time-bound mitzvah, the mitzvah asher shazman gerama, and women are exempt. Now, we have a derivation for that also. The Midrash Halacha says, women are exempt because it says all of your males should come to Jerusalem, and that comes to exclude women. That means without this derivation, I would have thought that women are obligated, even though it's misvat aseh shehazman gerama. So why do I need this derivation if I have a general rule from tefillin that women are exempt from all such mitzvot? So we answer again that we need it in this particular case. I would have thought that to make a gezerah shava, to be seen, that word appears regarding making pilgrimage, also appears regarding hakel once every 7 years. And I would have thought to make a gezerah shava, just like regarding hakel, men, women, children, everybody has to be there. So too for the pilgrimage, also women have to go. That's why I need the extra word zechudacha to say no, don't learn that gezerah shava. So that's why I need this particular derasha, even though we have a general rule that all misvot aseh shezman gerama, nashim are peturot. Okay, good. So we solved the problem for all these examples. Now we ask, so now back to the original question, right? How do we know that women are exempt from all positive commandments that are time bound? You made a binyan av from tefillin that they're exempt. But why use that as the paradigm? Why not use simcha, the mitzvah that you have to be happy on the holidays, where women are obligated, and that's a mitzvah aseh shazman gerama. So why not use that as the paradigm and learn that women are obligated in all mitzvot aseh shazman geraman? Abaye explained that this mitzvah of simcha is not an individual obligation on the woman herself, but rather it's an obligation on her husband. The husband has to make sure that everybody in his household is happy. How do you do that? And whatever makes them happy. For if it's buying jewelry and clothing, good food, meat, wine. everybody according to the thing that they enjoy, but it's primarily the obligation of the husband to be misameach, right? Reading not instead of esamachta bechagecha vesimachta, make everybody happy on the holiday. So that's why we cannot use that as a paradigm. It's not an obligation of the woman herself. So we ask, what if someone's a widow and she doesn't have a husband that was going to make her happy? So then who's going to make her happy? And the answer is b'shiruyat's law, wherever she is staying. She's sleeping somewhere with her father, her brother, right? Whoever is her family, household, that she will be happy from the people that are there. But again, it's not an individual obligation upon her, so we can't use that as a paradigm. So next, v'neilaf mehakel. Why not use hakel as a paradigm? It's also misvat aseh shazman gerama. Women are obligated, so learn from here that all such misvot, women are obligated. The answer is mishum tahava masa vehakel shnei ketubim habayim ke'echad v'chol shnei ketubim habayim ke'echad and melamedin. Because we have yet another paradigm. We have hakel. We can use simcha because we saw that's not an individual obligation. But matzah, eating matzah, is also misvat shesuzban gerama, and women are obligated. So now we have two things that would work as a paradigm, and we have a rule that anytime you have two pesukim that teach the same thing, then we do not use them as a paradigm. If I have only one, then I can use that one law as a paradigm for all other laws in that category. But if the Torah goes out of its way to mention two laws in the same category, why bother? Why are you saying two laws if you could just have one to learn to all the others? So that means that the second one is there to tell you, do not generalize from these two. It's these two and only these two. And since I have two of them, hakel and matzah, so they teach, since there are two of them, we know we cannot use them as a paradigm for all others. Okay, now we ask, once you apply this rule of shnei ketubim, let's use it for the other way. Ihachit tefillin ure'iyah nameh shnei ketubim mem ke'achad ve'en melamdin. Where did you learn your rule for in the first place that women are exempt from tefillin? Okay, but we also have re'iyah coming on pilgrimage, which is also a positive time-bound commandment that women are exempt. So here you have two laws that women are exempt from, and since there are two of them, also we should not use them as a paradigm, and we cannot learn anything else from them. Why don't you say the same thing on this side? And the answer is sirichi. No, in this case, I actually need both. So here's another exception to this rule, which is even if you have two, if Torah provides two examples, if you can show why logically you need two examples, then you can learn from both as a paradigm to all others. And here's why we need both. Sirichi. Di katav rachamana tefillin velo katab re'aya hava amina nelaf re'iyah mehakel. If Torah only wrote about tefillin and said, okay, that'll be a paradigm for all others, and did not write anything about re'iyah, then I would have thought to make a gezerah shava. Re'iyah says the same word regarding re'iyah and regarding hakel, and just like hakel, women are commanded, so to re'iyah, women are commanded. So that's why the Torah has to say about re'iyah. And if you just said re'iyah, and that would be the paradigm for everything else, including tefillin, then I might have thought that I should connect tefillin and mezuzah, since they are back to back, and just like mezuzah women are obligated, so too tefillin women are obligated. That's why the Torah had to say tefillin also. So even though here the Torah is saying two examples of this law, but both of them are necessary because one could not be learned from the other. So even though you have two, tefillin and re'iyah can join together to be a paradigm for all other misvot aseh shehazman gerama, that women are exempt. So that's good. So we have a good answer. Now we ask, ihachi masa vehakel name serichi. Wait again. Now the other way around, masa and hakel, which are the two positive time-bound commandments that women are obligated to do. Also, why don't we argue that that also is necessary to have each of them, that one could not be learned from the other, and therefore they could be together a paradigm. Now, okay, so first you have to show me why would both of them be necessary? So if the Torah only said hakel and said that's the paradigm for all others, including masa, and so I don't need to wouldn't need to write something about masa, then I would run into a problem. I would have made a Gezerah Shavah, the 15th and the 15th, from Sukkot. And just like regarding Sukkot, women are exempt, I would have thought Masah, women are exempt. So certainly a Torah has to write Masah. So how about write Masah and that be the paradigm for all others? I correct that and use that as a paradigm to include Hakel also. And I don't have to say anything about Hakel, that women have to go. If the Torah, in fact, wrote only regarding Masah and not about Hakel, I would have been able to figure out Hakel on my own, because since the Torah does say that even children have to attend Hakel, women all the more so have to attend Hakel. So therefore, in fact, I could have written it by Masah, and I would not require, I don't need women to be mentioned by Hakel. I could have figured out that women are obligated in Hakel without the Torah saying so. Since Hakel is extraneous, right? The mention of women regarding Hakel is extraneous. In fact, we have two laws that teach me, two examples that the Torah mentions of Misvot Asher Zman Gerama, that women are obligated, and I would not need both because I could have written Masah, and I could have used that as a paradigm for everything else. I have no reason why I would have thought Hakel would not be so. And so Hakel is extra. The mention of women in Hakel is extra. It's extra to tell me that do not use Masah and Hakel as a paradigm. These are the exceptions to the rule, and you cannot use learn a binyan av from them. So far, so good. We really have everything in place. There are exceptions to the rule in both directions. That's true. But each one has its own derivation. And Misvat Aseshaman Gerama, that women are obligated. It's true, you have a handful of those. You have Masah, you have Hakel, but I could have learned one from the other, and therefore those exceptions are limited to only those exceptions and cannot be used as a paradigm, whereas Tefillin and Re'iyah, each of those are necessary, and therefore together they can be a paradigm for all other Misvot Aseh Shazman Gerama, that women are Peturot. So we have a good answer. This answer works for one Shita, Hani Chalaman De'amad En Melamdin. We're going to see on tomorrow's daf that there is in fact a machloket about this. We've been assuming that when you have two examples of something, then you cannot use it as a paradigm for anything else. But there is an opinion otherwise. So what we just said is fine according to the opinion that says that if you have two examples of something and there's no reason why you would need, because you can learn one from the other, then you cannot use them as a paradigm. That everything works fine, because that will explain why we have Masah and Hakel. They are two examples, and we don't need both, and therefore they cannot be used as a paradigm for anything else. So then everything works fine. But there is another opinion that says, even if you have two things, okay, so what? So Torah gave you two examples of something. That's good, even better than having one example. It's good for emphasis. And even from two examples of something, you can learn two other examples of that category. And according to that opinion, just like you have two you have a paradigm from Tefillin and the Re'iyah, that we need both of them. So everyone would agree that can work as a paradigm. So just like you have a paradigm that says this category of Misvot, women are Peturot, here you also have a paradigm from Matzah and Hakel that says women are Hayavot in Misvat Aseh Shazaman Gerama. So we're good according to one opinion, but according to the other opinion, we're going to have to find another solution. Before we get to that solution, tomorrow's daf is going to go through yet another argumentation with a vitu, but we'll leave that to the next daf. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.